8 Below Deck Down under cast members who are bigger villains than Captain Jason Chambers. He's only doing his job. Well underway, and while Captain Jason Chambers has been accused of being a villain, there are 8 other spin-off cast members far worse than he is. The captain was forced to fire sous chef Anthony Bird after he blindsided the crew and took another job. However, Chef Serena Mace Ralph seems better off on Below Deck Down under Season 3, with her new sous chef, Alicia Harris. Captain Jason had a great relationship with former Chief Stu Aisha Scott, who left the spin-off for Below Deck Mediterranean. While Chief Stu Lara Rigby is a more serious leader than Aisha, her stews, Marina Marcondes de Barros and Brianna Duffield, seem to respect her and work well together. While Captain Jason can be harsh, he's just doing his job. Magda Ziomek exhibited some villainous traits in Below Deck Down under Season 1. A primary concern was Magda's persistent distraction from her long-distance relationship and always being on her phone. Chief Stu Aisha Scott was especially annoyed with her talking on the phone for hours while on the clock, which made her a liability to the interior team. Aisha had to finally confront Magda directly about the issue. Magda's work ethic was under scrutiny, driven by her distractions. She struggled to keep up with the demands of her role and fell behind on laundry, cabins, and guest interactions. She made the wrong decision to team up with controversial Chef Ryan McCune and started bad-mouthing Aisha. Ultimately, Captain Jason had to let her go due to her unprofessionalism, lack of initiative, and poor performance. Magda's work ethic was under scrutiny, driven by her distractions. She struggled to keep up with the demands of her role and fell behind on laundry, cabins, and guest interactions. She made the wrong decision to team up with controversial Chef Ryan McCune and started bad-mouthing Aisha. Ultimately, Captain Jason had to let her go due to her unprofessionalism, lack of initiative, and poor performance. Unsurprisingly, Jamie's relationship with Captain Jason became strained. He was disrespectful towards the captain, calling him simply Jason rather than Captain or Captain Jason. This lack of professionalism extended to Aisha, for whom he seemed to have little respect and both of his deckhands. Jamie's entitled attitude gave him a negative reputation, and he didn't return for subsequent seasons. He's all but disappeared from social media. In Below Deck Down, under Season 1, Culver Bradbury was an asset to the crew with his upbeat demeanor and strong work ethic. He always went above and beyond, even helping the interior crew when necessary. Culver was lighthearted, fun, and hardworking, making him an equal to Aisha in many ways. However, things changed in Below Deck Down under Season 2. Culver began to display a lack of initiative and professionalism, which did not go unnoticed by his superiors. Captain Jason and Bosun João Franco expressed concerns over his diminishing performance and apparent disregard for the yacht's hierarchical structure. It didn't make sense, given his past performance. The boatmance with Jamie Neal and Chef Serena Mace Ralph didn't do him any favors, especially when he ditched the chef for Jamie, a new stew. He also violated the captain's one-drink rule, adding to the villainous edit. Culver luckily turned it around and is a captain today. Chef Ryan McCune was infamously villainous on Below Deck Down Under because of his unprofessional conduct and poor food service. He and Chief Stu Aisha couldn't stand each other, and she even described him as a very arrogant man, making their teamwork all but impossible. Chef Ryan's unwillingness to adapt his menus to guest preferences was also baffling, as that's a huge part of a super yacht chef's job. His confrontational attitude even extended to Captain Jason, displaying disrespect that further strained onboard relationships. Chef Ryan later admitted he gave up after the 3rd charter, which was pretty apparent watching the season back. Eventually, Captain Jason had to fire Chef Ryan. His personality was difficult to deal with, but ultimately, it was his poor performance as a chef that led to his demise. Lara Bilascona quickly became one of the most controversial figures in Below Deck Down under Season 2. earning a reputation as a villain due to her inappropriate behavior and complete disregard for boundaries. The drama started when Bosun Luke Jones was fired after he tried to enter Stu Margot Sisson's bed without her consent, prompting immediate intervention from producers and Captain Jason. Instead of showing concern for her crewmate, Laura defended Luke, dismissing the situation and even going so far as to say that she wouldn't have minded if he had done the same to her. Laura's behavior was just as villainous. She repeatedly made unwanted advances toward deckhand Adam Kodra, ignoring his discomfort. After multiple warnings, Captain Jason decided to fire Laura as well, citing her failure to respect others. She's one of the most notorious villains of the entire franchise. Anthony Bird was the most recent villain on Below Deck Down Under. His short time on Season 3 was nothing short of a disaster, making him one of the most controversial figures in the franchise's history. As the first ever sous chef in Below Deck history, his arrival was supposed to be a game changer for the galley. Instead, it quickly became evident Anthony had no interest in playing by the rules. From the moment he stepped on board, he clashed with Chef Serena, constantly questioning her authority and complaining about the way she ran the kitchen. It didn't take long for tensions to spill over into the rest of the crew. Anthony's arrogant attitude and refusal to collaborate made him an outcast, and his negativity started to bring down morale on the yacht. However, his biggest mistake was secretly accepting another job behind Captain Jason's back. If there's one thing Below Deck captains won't tolerate, it's dishonesty, and this betrayal sealed Anthony's fate. Captain Jason wasted no time in firing him. Joao was a bit of a villain on Below Deck Mediterranean, with his behavior often casting him as the season's antagonist. His penchant for excessive drinking led to the emergence of his alter ego, Jezebab, under whose influence he was rude and misogynistic. This darker side made him sleazy with his fellow crew members. Joao later acknowledged his embarrassing behavior, expressing remorse after the show aired. Joao sought redemption during his appearance on Below Deck Down Under Season 2. Stepping in as bosun following the firing of Luke Jones, Joao finally stepped it up. His return was met with mixed reactions from the crew, particularly from Aisha, who had reservations about his growth. Throughout the season, Joao tried to come off as more relatable and mature, putting in the work to become a better guy. While he distanced himself from his villain persona, he was more of a villain than Captain Jason has ever been. Luke is the villain from Below Deck Down Under Season 2. His attempted sexual assault incident unfolded after a night of heavy drinking, when Luke, disregarding all semblance of professionalism, entered Margot's cabin without her consent. His inappropriate behavior didn't go unnoticed. Producers intervened promptly, ensuring Margot's safety and informing Captain Jason of the misconduct. Demonstrating zero tolerance for such violations, Captain Jason immediately fired Luke. Luke behaved so badly that entire protocols changed. In response to the incident, producers reinforced safety measures for the subsequent season, even reducing alcohol consumption among cast members. Captain Jason noted that, despite the decrease in drinking, the current season still has plenty of drama. There have only been 3 seasons of Below Deck Down Under, and Captain Jason doesn't even crack the top 10 villains. Captain Jason isn't a Below Deck Down Under villain. In fact, he's a hero. Eyed,